Hello everyone, Nick the DM back with a Dungeons & Dragons video. Today we are taking a look at another planar dragon. Well, technically we're talking about a dragon I've already covered in an earlier video, but this is a different version of that dragon. Today we're taking a second look at the Pyroclastic dragon. You see, in my original video on the Pyroclastic dragon, I said, now, the Pyroclastic Dragon appears in both 3.5 and 4th edition, but while they may share the same name, these dragons are distinctly different. The 3rd edition Planar Dragon, which I'm covering in today's video, is actually a dragon that is comprised of muscle and tissue and scales, while the 4th edition dragon is classified as an elemental with the dragon keyword relating it to the dragons, and it is made of molten rock, a layer of stone, and a white-hot core. I may make some videos on the 4th edition Planar Dragons and stat them for 5th edition, but that's still up for debate. That's when I'll cover the 4E Pyroclastic Dragon. And so now I'm taking a look at the 4th edition version of the Pyroclastic Dragon. So, let's take a look. 4th edition's Pyroclastic Dragon is one of the planar dragons, a category of dragon which originate from planes other than the material plane. Specifically, the Pyroclastic dragons are in a subcategory called the elemental dragons from 4th edition, which are best described on page 191 of the Draconomicon Chromatic Dragons. Quote, "The elemental chaos is the stuff of creation, limitless possibility and endless destruction combined in utter disorder. The plane's forces work against creatures that linger there, so they acquire its dangerous and unpredictable qualities. All creatures are susceptible to such alterations, but dragons react intensely to the awakening of their elemental nature. Chromatic dragons seem especially prone to this transformation. Few elemental dragons escape their realm, but those that do settle in places compatible with their forms." End quote. And be sure not to get them confused with the catastrophic dragons from the 4th edition Monster Manual number 3, because they are basically the same. The only difference really is the method of creation, otherwise they are both creatures with dragon and elemental features, but I'll talk about the catastrophic dragons in later videos. Anyways, our focus is on the Pyroclastic dragon. It is said that no dragon better reflects the fury of the elemental chaos than the Pyroclastic dragon. A Pyroclastic dragon is a mountainous creature composed of molten rock contained within a thin crust of cooled stone. Its craggy stone maw gapes to reveal a white-hot core. Pyroclastic dragons have the general shape and features of a red dragon, but its body vents out poisonous gases from the numerous cracks and fissures that split its stony hide. An interesting thing about the Pyroclastic dragon is that it doesn't actually have any official artwork for 4th edition. It has its 3rd edition art, which I showed and mentioned in the 3rd edition video of the Pyroclastic dragon. However, the 4th edition version does not have one, so I took it upon myself to draw one, so that's what you're looking at on screen. Pyroclastic dragons dwell within the elemental chaos's most violent regions. These dragons can survive in places inimical to other life. Typically, a pyroclastic dragon settles in the calderas of active volcanoes. They swim about the lava and dive deep into the magma veins to see what can be found. The mere presence of such a dragon causes the earth to rebel. Venomous fissures split the ground while tremors roll out from wherever the dragon goes, which I found quite funny when making stats for this creature, but we'll touch on specifically why in a bit. A pyroclastic dragon is an unsubtle opponent, exploding into violence when provoked. It unleashes its breath weapon the first opportunity it gets, coating its victims in molten rock that cools, slowing and even halting enemies. The dragon can cause tremors in the earth and uses them against enemies that haven't been incapacitated by its breath weapon. It then will use its action to shatter its foes with its powerful bite and jagged claws. Now, as I normally do in these videos, I converted the dragon statistics from 4th edition to 5th edition, which was a little bit more difficult considering the 4th edition version only provides statistics for the elder age category of the Pyroclastic dragon. So by comparing that to other dragons, such as the blue and red dragons, and then comparing those to their 5th edition versions, I managed to convert a Pyroclastic dragon to 5th edition. So I'll go over the ancient age category here in the video to explain some of its abilities. So let's take a look. Ancient Pyroclastic Dragon, Gargantuan Elemental Chaotic Evil. Now this is a little bit weird because depending on how the typings work in 4th edition, it is an elemental with the dragon subtype, which is a whole convoluted thing. So whether you classify it as an elemental or a dragon, I guess it's up to you in your games. You could probably classify it as both or neither for the effects of certain spells. But regardless, it's weird. I put elemental just to remind people which one they're looking at. It has an armor class of 22, which is natural armor. It has 481 hit points, 26 d20 plus 208. It has 4 different movement speeds: an on-foot speed of 40 feet, a burrow speed of 40 feet, a fly speed of 80 feet, and a swim speed of 40 feet. For its actual ability scores, it's a 29 strength, 10 dexterity, 27 constitution, 18 intelligence, 15 wisdom, and 16 charisma. It has proficiency in dexterity, constitution, wisdom, and charisma saving throws. It has proficiency in athletics, expertise in perception, and proficiency in stealth. It is resistant to poison damage and immune to fire damage. Depending on how you rule poison resistance, it can also have advantage on saving throws against poison, but that is a little bit different depending on each creature. Some have it, some don't. Some just have resistance. It all depends. But as of just statistically what was converted, it has resistance to poison, immunity to fire. For senses, blind sight 60 feet, dark vision 120, passive perception of 26. It can speak Draconic and Primordial and has a challenge rating of 23, like the ancient blue dragon. For abilities, it has legendary resistance 3 times per day. It can succeed a saving throw that it failed. And venomous aura. At the start of each of the dragon's turns, each creature within 25 feet of the dragon takes 10 or 3d6 fire damage and 10 or 3d6 poison damage, and flammable objects in the area that aren't being worn or carried ignite. A creature also takes 10 fire damage when touching the dragon or hitting the dragon from within 5 feet of it. So this is incredibly dangerous, and it's also a reason that a number of its abilities are lower in damage, especially the breath weapon that we'll touch on in a little bit. But for the most part, any creature within a good distance of it, pretty much within melee distance or within even just avoiding opportunity attack distance, they're going to be subject to venomous aura, which is scaled in towards the challenge rating of this creature. Now for its actions, the interesting thing above all else about this creature is it lacks a frightful presence. So unlike pretty much every other dragon of the chromatic or planar variety, it is specifically listed in 4th edition not to have a frightful presence. And I guess that's fair. Just with the venomous aura already there, it doesn't need another area of effect thing. But anyways, for its actions, it has a multi-attack. It can make a bite and 2 claw attacks. For its bite, it's a plus 16 to hit, reach of 15 feet. It does 2d10 plus 9 or 20 piercing damage plus 2d6 or 7 fire damage. On a hit, the target takes 3 fire damage at the start of, or 1d6 fire damage at the start of each of its turns. At the end of each of its turns, the creature can make a DC 10 dexterity saving throw, ending the effect on itself on a success. So it is a bite attack that causes perpetual burn damage. For its claw attack, it's pretty standard, plus 16 to hit, reach of 10 feet, 2d6 plus 9 slashing damage for a total of for an average of 16. It has its tail attack, which will be covered in legendary actions, but it's plus 16 to hit, reach of 20 feet, does 2d8 plus 9 or 18 average bludgeoning damage. Now its breath weapon. This one was interesting because of the specific qualities that it had in 4th edition that needed to be converted over to 5th edition, which caused me to drastically drop the amount of damage it does just strictly upon touching. I had to drop that drastically, especially compared to other creatures like the ancient blue dragon of the same challenge rating. The dragon has a magma breath, which is a recharge of 5 to 6. The dragon spews molten rock in a 90-foot cone. Each creature in that area must make a DC 23 dexterity saving throw or take 55 or 10d10 fire damage on a failed save, or half as much on a successful one. On a failure, the creature is also coated in rapidly cooling molten rock. A creature coated in rock is blinded and restrained. Additionally, the target takes 1d10 fire damage at the start of each of its turns. At the end of each of the creature's turns, it can make a DC 15 strength saving throw, ending the effects on itself on a success. So essentially what this is the dragon will blast forth molten hot rock, which will attack or cling on and immediately cool to those who fail the dexterity saving throw, which will blind them, restrain them as it tightens on them, and it will also be a little bit difficult to remove. Of course, it's not I made sure it wasn't an action to remove it, because that gets very taxing to just have actions spent left, right, and center. However, with a creature restrained, they will probably waste their action, but they still have the potential of doing something else rather than using their action to stop the magma's effect on themselves. I also didn't include it here, but it makes sense that another creature could aid, either giving the help action for the saving throw or just being able to make a check themselves equal to the same DC to try and pull their ally out. But that is it for its actions. It has additionally a reaction, which is not uncommon in 4th edition, but is fairly uncommon in 5th edition. It has eruption. When the dragon is hit with a melee attack, it can use a reaction to erupt. Each creature within 30 feet of the dragon must make a DC 23 dexterity saving throw or take 22 or 4d10 fire damage and be pushed 15 feet away from the dragon. So it can essentially use this once around, and that is factored into its damage output, just because it's almost guaranteed to happen once around, being hit with a melee attack, unless your party is entirely made of ranged fighters, rangers, spellcasters from a distance. But the moment it's hit with a melee attack, it's basically going to use this. Now, I did make sure it was save or no damage. If you fail the save, you take the damage and get pushed 15 feet back. If you succeed the save, you're completely fine. But it is a very high DC, so that can work in favor of the party, especially considering how difficult it is already. For its legendary actions, the dragon can take 3 legendary actions, choosing from the options below. One option can be used at a time and only at the end of another creature's turn. It has Detect, which it can make a perception check. Tail Attack, it can make a tail attack, or Wing Attack, which costs 2 actions. Beats its wings. Each creature within 15 feet of the dragon must succeed on a DC 24 dexterity saving throw or take 16 2d6 plus 9 bludgeoning damage and be knocked prone. The dragon can then fly up to half its flying speed. The legendary actions are fairly standard just across the board, especially relative to other dragons, but there's a reason for this. In the description of this video, there is a link to the Wormling Young Adult and Ancient stat blocks, but before you go check those out, one last thing. Normally I just make the basic stat block for a Planar dragon, but this time, because the stat block was fairly simple, I thought I'd take a shot at making some layer actions for the Pyroclastic dragon. So I started to, until I went into the monster manual to give myself a reference to work from, and found my work was done for me. The layer actions and regional effects of the Red Dragon in the 5th edition Monster Manual are exactly the kind of things mentioned in the Pyroclastic Dragon's 4th edition statistics, including a tremor ability and the poisonous gases, which match the theme of the Pyroclastic Dragon perfectly. So if you're looking to use layer actions for your Pyroclastic Dragon, rather than making them yourself, just take the Red Dragon's layer actions and slap the Pyroclastic Dragon's name on them like it stole a book report for Dragon School. Anyways, that is all I have for today's video. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to help support and grow the channel. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you check out my next video, or some of my older ones if you haven't yet. Thanks again for watching. Bye.